One of the most common things I've noticed throughout more than 10 years in ministry is that we tend to separate our faith lives from our ordinary lives. I've heard this expressed in so many ways over the years, but I think a former student said it best. She was a student in a college theology course that I taught at a Catholic university some years ago. And at the end of the semester, I asked the students to write a few key takeaways from the course. And this particular student wrote this. She said, "I think one key takeaway I have from this semester is that spirituality happens in the context of our lives." She continued, "Before taking this course, I perceived spirituality as abstract and separated from our lives." You know, I remember reading that and thinking, yeah, that's exactly it, right? She expressed so simply what I had observed for so many years. And I think it's a common assumption. We often think of spirituality as something that happens in church or during prayer or when we're reading scripture, maybe at Bible studies, or maybe when we're away on retreat. And then we sort of go back to our ordinary life as though the two are somehow separate. You know, one seems to be set aside time for God and things of God, and the other seems to be time spent dealing with just those ordinary demands of life, right? But the two are not meant to be separated. Our lives are the playing field where our faith is lived. So through prayer, the sacraments, retreats, and those other spiritual practices, God strengthens and forms us so that we can go out and go about the work of loving and living our lives in the way of Christ, which is our calling. So as Catholics, we've received an incredible wealth of teaching through the Catechism and through catechesis. So we probably all know a lot about the faith, right? We're pretty good, I think, at reciting facts and doctrine and dogma, but many of us were never really shown how the teaching connects with the ordinary experiences of our lives. So I'll give you an example. Take the virtues, right? Many of us learned the Catechism's definition of a virtue. It says, a virtue, you can probably all pronounce this with me, is a habitual and firm disposition to do the good. And we learned about the cardinal virtues, and we can probably all proudly recite them: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. We might even be able to explain what they mean and why they're important. But I really don't think we always understand just how important or how practical they really are. The virtues help shape how we respond in our lives, to the people in our lives, to the circumstances, to the challenges that we're dealing with every day. They really help us put our faith into practice. You know, we say it all the time, and we know our goal is to become saints, to continue growing in holiness until the day we die. And one essential way that we do this is to stay connected to the church, of course, to receive the sacraments. But our Christian life does not end there. It's that both and, the Catholic both and, right? It's a both and effort. It's God's grace and then our human response to that beautiful gift of grace. And our response is lived out in everything we do, everything we think, everything we say, everything we do. And of course, that's in and out of church, right? It's much easier to be Catholic around our Catholic friends in Bible study or when things are going well. But it can become much harder when we're at work or at home or driving in traffic or going through difficult times, right? These are often the moments when we're challenged to put our faith into practice. This is a lot easier to talk about than it is to practice. In fact, as I was preparing for this talk, I was very angry with someone I love. They hurt me. It wasn't intentional, but still it hurt. And I didn't even realize, honestly, as I was preparing for this talk, that I was right there needing to practice everything I was about to preach. And it's hard, right? Because I felt justified. My pride was hurt. I couldn't even recognize at first that this was a place. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the place where I needed to practice my faith. And even after I realized it, I still had to struggle with myself to take that first step, right? It's hard. It was hard for me to break the silence, to talk, to apologize for my own part, and of course to forgive. So none of this is easy, right? We're going to have to practice and persevere. The Catechism tells us that the saints practiced heroic virtue. So think about that. You know, these were ordinary people like you and me, but they lived lives of heroic virtue, which means that they courageously practiced prudence, justice, temperance, and fortitude, and so many more virtues. And they did this, of course, through, for, and with God. So what does practicing the virtues look like in everyday life? In the next video, we'll begin with the first of the cardinal virtues, prudence. But for now, I invite you to spend a few moments in prayer with the song, Christ in Me, Arise. I've got the link to it below. And as you listen, ask Christ to arise in you, not only in church or during times of prayer, but in the ordinary circumstances of your life, in your home, your workplace, your relationships, and the community. Until next time, pray, practice, persevere, and God bless you.